The heat that afternoon felt merciless, almost alive. It pressed down on the dusty streets of Ouagadougou like an invisible weight, turning every breath into a struggle. The sun baked the cracked pavement until it shimmered like broken glass, and the smell of smoke, fuel, and rotting waste mixed into the kind of scent that only poverty understands. And right there, in the middle of that forgotten street, a child knelt beside a mountain of garbage. He was small, far too small to be carrying the weight he carried on his shoulders. His school uniform, once proudly white, now looked like a faded memory. Dust clung to the fabric. Tears cut clean lines down his dirt-covered cheeks. His hands, tiny, shaking, dug through the trash with quiet desperation. He wasn't searching for food. He wasn't searching for coins. He was searching for something far more precious. A notebook, not just paper, not just ink, his future. Cars passed, people passed, life moved on around him, but the boy remained trapped in his own world of panic and hopelessness. He ignored the flies, the smell, the cuts on his fingers. Each handful of trash he picked up was thrown aside quickly, as if time itself was running out. And then, a black SUV slowed to a stop. The air shifted, the tinted window rolled down, and the entire street seemed to inhale. Because inside that vehicle sat a man whose face had become a symbol of courage, rebellion, and hope. President Ibrahim Traoré. Clad in his familiar fatigues, the young president leaned forward. His eyes, normally sharp and commanding, softened with something deeper, something heavier, something human. For a moment, he didn't speak. He didn't move. He simply watched the child digging through filth that no child should ever have to touch. This moment, this single heartbeat, posed the kind of question that exposes the truth about leadership. Would he look away? Would he continue his schedule? Would he treat the scene as just another symptom of poverty? Or would he do something that nobody, not his security, not the people, not even Musa, could have imagined? Because what happened next became a moment that millions would share. A moment that broke the internet. A moment that redefined leadership. The city was loud, vendors calling out prices, motorcycles zipping between cars, children playing barefoot in the dust. But the moment Ibrahim said the words, everything seemed to quiet. Stop the car. It wasn't a command. It wasn't anger. It was something else. A tone his guards recognized instantly. The kind of tone that meant he had already made up his mind. His security panicked silently. This wasn't protocol. This wasn't safe. This wasn't planned. But Ibrahim Traoré never lived by the comfort of plans. He stepped out of the SUV before anyone could advise him otherwise. The sunlight struck his uniform, turning him into a lone silhouette walking toward a mountain of garbage. And a crying child. The crowd noticed immediately, first a whisper, then a ripple, then an explosion of murmurs. Is that the president? What is he doing here? Why is he walking toward the trash? Phones came out. People froze in disbelief. Because they realized something. This wasn't a staged visit. This wasn't a public relations event. This was raw, unfiltered reality. Up close, the scene was even more heartbreaking. The boy's name, he would soon learn, was Musa. 10 years old, barefoot, shoulder of his uniform torn, shorts held by a piece of rope, fingers bleeding from broken glass. But what struck Ibrahim most was Musa's face, not fear, not shame, but desperation. Quiet, painful, determined desperation. The kind that comes from losing something someone you love sacrificed everything to give you. Son, Ibrahim said gently, kneeling beside him. What are you searching for? Musa turned, and when he saw who was speaking, his breath stopped. Every child in Burkina Faso knew that face. The leader who refused luxury. The soldier president who stood against corruption. the man who believed children should never bend to poverty. But in that moment, Musa didn't see a president. He saw hope. "My notebook, sir," he whispered, voice cracking. "I lost my notebook, and I have only one. My mother saved for 3 months to buy it. She works washing clothes. She's skipped meals for weeks just so I could go to school." His lip trembled. Tears returned. "If I don't find it, I can't take notes in class, and she'll think I don't care. She'll think her sacrifice meant nothing." The crowd grew silent, not just watching, feeling the pain of poverty, feeling the weight of a child's burden, feeling the truth that a notebook, something so small, could determine a future. Ibrahim swallowed hard. He looked at the trash pile, 2 meters high, filled with sharp metal, broken glass, rotting food. A place no child should ever touch. The logical thing, the political move, would be to promise a new notebook. Hand him money. Smile for the camera. Walk away. That's what any other leader would do. But Ibrahim Traoré wasn't any other leader. His eyes narrowed. Not with anger, but with resolve. He stood up. The crowd waited. And then, he removed his military jacket. He rolled up his sleeves. And he stepped into the trash. Gasps burst through the street. Phones shook as people recorded. His security rushed forward in panic. "Mr. President, this is not safe. There could be needles, metal, broken glass. Please let us handle this." But Ibrahim didn't even look at them. "If it's not safe for me," he said firmly, "then it was never safe for this child." And then, before the world could process what was happening, the president of Burkina Faso began searching for a lost notebook with his bare hands. And yet, even this wasn't the most shocking part, because what Ibrahim did next, a decision made in the heart of that garbage heap, would change the entire direction of this story and shake the nation to its core. Whispers began to ripple through the crowd. "My president, digging in trash? This is beneath the office," a woman muttered, shaking her head. "What will the world think?" another voice added. "Real problems, real decisions, not one child's notebook." The words stung, not because they were true, but because they missed the truth entirely. Ibrahim Traoré paused, letting the murmurs wash over him. Each comment was a blade, slicing through the air, a reminder that leadership looked different to everyone. Some wanted distance. They wanted the illusion of power, the prestige, the untouchable figure on a pedestal. They wanted a president far removed from the mud, the suffering, the quiet battles of the people. But Ibrahim had never been that kind of man. He rose to power not through privilege, not through ceremony, not by hiding behind polished desks. He rose because he understood struggle. He had walked among soldiers, the poor, the forgotten, wearing fatigues instead of suits. He knew the pulse of his nation not from speeches, but from the ground itself, its pain, its resilience, its silent hopes. And now, on this dusty street in Ouagadougou, he was making another statement. A true leader kneels beside his people's struggles. He does not observe from afar. He joins them. Musa's tears young. Musa sensed the tension, the judgment. His small frame trembled. "I'm sorry, Mr. President," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the hum of the city. I didn't mean to cause trouble. You don't have to do this. Please, just go. I'll keep looking myself." Ibrahim stopped digging. He turned to the boy. Hands smeared with dirt and cuts, he gently grasped Musa's shoulders, looking deep into his eyes. "Listen to me, Musa," he said, his voice firm yet tender. "You are not trouble. Your struggle is not a burden. Every time I see a child like you fighting for education, fighting against poverty, fighting for a future, I see the soul of Burkina Faso." The boy's eyes widened. Tears streamed again. But this time, they were different. These were tears of recognition, of being seen, of being valued, of mattering to someone who mattered to the entire nation. The crowd felt it too. Something shifted. The whispers faded into silence. Hearts softened. A collective breath was held. And then, courage spread like wildfire. Slowly, almost hesitantly, people stepped forward. An elderly man in tattered clothes approached the heap and began digging. A young woman joined, a student, a street vendor. Within minutes, a dozen hands, 20, 30, all were clawing through the filth. Not for themselves, but for a child, for his future, for the symbol that a single notebook had become. "What section did you lose it in?" Ibrahim asked Musa, crouching beside him again. "Which direction were you walking this morning?" I came from the east side, sir, near the old market, just after sunrise. The garbage truck came around 8 o'clock, Musa said, thinking hard. Ibrahim processed this instantly. His mind was already turning the chaos into strategy. "To my aid," he said sharply. "Find out which truck collected waste from the East Market area this morning. Time, route, everything. Then focus our volunteers on those bags. Plastic, vegetable peels, anything that came from that street." The scene shifted from chaos to mission. The search became organized. Every hand digging now had purpose. Every heart beating in rhythm with the child's hope. What had begun as an act of compassion had transformed into something bigger. A community led by example, united by empathy, guided by the courage of one man who refused to look away. Timbala running out. The sun was sinking, painting the street in fiery oranges and golds. Shadows stretched across the trash, making the heap appear almost monstrous. Ibrahim's hands were raw now. Cuts from glass and metal had begun to sting. His shirt, expensive and once crisp, was smeared with filth. His security detail was growing increasingly anxious. "Mr. President," an aide whispered urgently. "The defense minister meeting is in 30 minutes. The African Union delegation waits. We have to—" Ibrahim didn't look up. His eyes never left the pile. "Tell them why," he said. "Tell them what matters more today." The aide hesitated, realizing he would not win this argument. Slowly, he nodded, because the president had already made a choice. A choice that defied expectation. A choice that revealed the heart of true leadership. The search had been going on for nearly 40 minutes. The crowd had swelled. Some helping, some watching, all captivated. 200 eyes fixed on a president kneeling in the dirt, on bleeding hands, in the fading light of day. And then, Ibrahim's voice rang out, cutting through the murmurs of the crowd. "Stop!" The word was calm, almost serene, yet it carried the weight of destiny. The street froze. Phones hovered mid-recording. Children stopped playing. Vendors paused mid-step. Even the garbage heap seemed to wait in silence, as if holding its breath. The question lingered in the air. What had he seen? Had the notebook been found? Or was the miracle yet to come? The crowd leaned forward. Musa's small hands trembled. And the president, prepared to make a decision that would forever change not just a boy's life, but the soul of an entire city. Ibrahim's hands plunged deep into a torn black plastic bag, slick with grease and rotting scraps. The crowd held its collective breath. Slowly, carefully. He pulled something out. It was filthy, smeared with cooking oil and scraps of yesterday's vegetables. But even beneath the grime, the blue cover was unmistakable. A notebook. Musa's heart leapt before he even realized it. Musa. "Is this it?" Ibrahim asked softly, voice thick with emotion. The boy scrambled forward, trembling hands reaching for the prize. He turned the cover in his fingers, inspecting the pages. They were mostly intact. And there, on the first page, written in careful, childish handwriting. "It's mine," Musa whispered, voice quivering. Then louder, "It's mine! You found it! You found it!" And in that instant, the street erupted, not with fanfare, but with raw, uncontainable emotion. Musa threw his small arms around the president, sobbing into his filth-streaked uniform. His tiny body shook with relief, with gratitude, with the pure joy of being seen. Ibrahim, who had made decisions affecting millions, held one small boy as if he were his own son. And in that embrace, a silent truth spread through the crowd. Leadership isn't about power, it's about heart. Some people cheered, some cried openly. Women clutched their chests in awe. Men who had been skeptical moments before now wiped tears from their eyes. Even the most hardened security personnel cleared their throats, struggling to maintain composure. But Ibrahim wasn't done. He knelt to Musa's level, still holding the boy's shoulders. His voice carried across the suddenly quiet street. "Musa, listen to me very carefully." The boy leaned in. The murmurs of the crowd faded into nothing. Every eye fixed on him, every heart holding its breath. "Your mother was right," Ibrahim continued. "Education is your way out of poverty. This notebook, it is more than paper and ink. It represents your future, your dreams, your potential to become anything you want to be." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. "But know this," he said, eyes locking with Musa's. "You are not alone. Every child in Burkina Faso who fights for education, who refuses to give up, who believes in learning despite hardship, they are the future of our nation. And I promise you, I will not rest until every child has not just one notebook, but every tool they need to build their dreams." Musa's eyes grew wide. Tears glimmered, but these were tears of empowerment, of hope reborn. And then, Ibrahim did something nobody expected. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. A few whispered words later, he turned back to Musa with a gentle smile. "Tomorrow morning, a vehicle will come to your home. It will take you and your mother to the Ministry of Education. I want to meet her, honor her sacrifice, and personally ensure you have everything you need for school: books, pens, uniforms, everything." Musa's mouth opened. "But, sir, we can't accept that." "Yes, you can," Ibrahim said firmly, kindly. "Not as charity, but as an investment in our country's future. You are Burkina Faso's treasure, Musa, and every child like you is too. It's time we treat them that way." The crowd pressed closer, hearts pounding, eyes brimming with tears. What had begun as a simple lost notebook had become a sacred moment of hope and humanity. An elderly woman stepped forward, her face etched with decades of struggle, tears streaming down weathered cheeks. "Bless you, Mr. President. You have given us hope. You have shown that you are truly one of us." Others echoed her sentiment. "This is our president. This is the leader Africa needs." But what struck Ibrahim even more deeply than the cheers wasn't the applause. It was the people who had joined the search. The elderly man, the young woman, the student, the vendor, all surrounding Musa, celebrating with him, lifting him up as if he were their own. One young volunteer approached, shyness written across his face. "Mr. President," he said softly, "I used to think leaders were untouchable, different from us. Today, you showed me that real leadership is getting your hands dirty. Thank you for teaching me this." Ibrahim smiled, a mix of exhaustion and satisfaction etching his face. "No, my brother," he said quietly. "Thank you for teaching me. When I saw all of you step forward, strangers become family, I was reminded why I fight every day. This..." He gestured to the scene around them, to Musa clutching his notebook, to the community that had formed around a pile of garbage. "This is Burkina Faso at its best. This is the nation we are building together." As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of fire and gold, street lamps flickered on. The city seemed to hold its breath in reverence for what had just unfolded. Ibrahim finally stood, tugged his dirt-streaked jacket back on, and began walking toward his SUV. But before leaving, he turned to Musa one last time. "Study hard, Musa," he called. "And remember, you matter. Every child matters. Never forget that." Musa clutched the notebook as if it were made of gold. Tears sparkled on his cheeks in the lamplight, not of despair, but of hope reborn. And in that moment, the people of Ouagadougou realized something profound. True leadership isn't measured by speeches or policies, but by the courage to stand with your people, to honor their struggles, and to protect their dreams, even when it means getting your hands dirty. As the convoy pulled away, Ibrahim Traoré glanced through the rear window. The street was still alive. The crowd hadn't dispersed. They were still celebrating, still processing the extraordinary scene they had witnessed. And in the center of it all was Musa, standing tall, clutching his notebook as if it were gold, surrounded by a newfound community that had rallied to his side in a moment of collective humanity. But the story wasn't over. Within hours, video clips began appearing online. Phones from dozens of angles captured every detail. The president kneeling in the dirt, his hands slick with grime, the torn jacket, the bleeding fingers. The moment Musa's notebook emerged from the garbage, the boy's tears of disbelief, the embrace that bridged the chasm between power and poverty, it was all there. By morning, #NotebookPresident was trending across Africa. By afternoon, the story had gone global. Within 48 hours, the videos had been viewed over 50 million times. News outlets, from CNN to BBC to Al Jazeera, covered the story. Social media erupted. People cried, people cheered, people debated what true leadership should look like. But the real transformation wasn't online. It was happening on the ground in Burkina Faso itself. True to his word, the next morning, a sleek government vehicle arrived at Musa's small, cramped home in one of Ouagadougou's poorest neighborhoods. His mother, Awa, a thin woman with hands hardened from years of labor, stood frozen. Exhaustion and disbelief lined her face. She had worked from dawn to dusk, washing clothes, skipping meals, saving every franc for her children's education. She had prayed that Musa's small notebook would help him learn, help him rise, help him survive. Now the president of Burkina Faso was coming to meet her. Tears streamed down Awa's face as she recounted her story. Widowed, raising 3 children alone, struggling under the weight of poverty. Yet she had never given up. Ibrahim listened, quietly, reverently. "You are the true heroes of this nation," he said, voice thick with emotion. "Every mother who sacrifices, every father who works until their hands bleed, every child who values education despite hardship, you are the foundation of Burkina Faso's future. I am just a president, but you are the reason this nation survives and thrives." A photograph captured the moment, the president embracing a mother and her son. The image went viral. Newspapers printed it. Social media shared it. Murals would later appear in the streets of Ouagadougou. It became a symbol of a different kind of leadership, one rooted in empathy, action, and courage. Within a week, Ibrahim announced a national initiative. Every child, every notebook. The program aimed to provide free school supplies for every child in public schools. Across Burkina Faso, he reallocated ceremonial funds, challenged wealthy citizens to contribute, and partnered with international organizations moved by Musa's story. "If we can spend on luxury and spectacle," he declared in a televised address, "we can invest in the minds of our children. This is not charity. This is justice. This is our future." The initiative grew rapidly. Donations poured in from across Africa and the globe. Skeptics became believers. Critics became allies. Communities mobilized. Volunteers helped distribute supplies. Entire neighborhoods united behind a single purpose. Every child deserves the tools to build their dreams. In classrooms across Burkina Faso, the impact was immediate. Children who had once hidden their poverty now held their heads high. They had seen the president kneeling in the dirt, refusing to leave until a single notebook was rescued. They understood their struggles mattered. Their dreams mattered. Musa himself became a symbol of hope, protected from exploitation.
He continued attending his local school, but now with full supplies and a scholarship fund in his name. His mother, Awa, secured a better job through a government program. Most importantly, their story gave a voice to millions of children in similar circumstances. 6 months later, Ibrahim visited Musa's school unannounced. He squeezed into a small desk in the back of the classroom. Musa was leading a presentation on environmental conservation, reading from the very orange-stained notebook that had survived the trash. His confidence was palpable. His dreams had expanded. After class, Ibrahim addressed the students. Every one of you has the potential to change Burkina Faso. Every one of you matters. It does not matter if your parents are rich or poor, if you live in a mansion or a mud hut, if you have 1 notebook or 100. What matters is your determination, your dreams, and your refusal to give up. The children listened, spellbound. Their teacher wiped tears from her eyes. Ibrahim continued, when you see someone struggling, do not walk past. When you see injustice, do not look away. When you see a person in need, remember, their problem is also your problem. Their struggle is also your struggle. We are all connected. We are all Burkina Faso. We rise together or not at all. That day, the story of Musa's notebook became a lesson for the world. Other African leaders visited schools, engaged directly with children, and demonstrated a different model of leadership. Social movements emerged around educational access. Communities across the continent began working together, inspired by the image of strangers digging through garbage for a child they had never met. Years later, historians would point to that afternoon in Ouagadougou as a turning point not just for one nation, but for an entire continent's understanding of what leadership could be. The images remained iconic: a president with dirty hands, bleeding fingers, and a ruined jacket, kneeling in the dust, a simple blue notebook, worn and stained, and in the backdrop, the sun fairy, golden, symbolic, reminding everyone what was truly worth fighting for: education, hope, dignity, and the unwavering belief that every child matters. Ibrahim Traoré showed that true power is not in standing above others, but in standing beside them, not in staying clean, but in getting dirty when someone needs your help. Leadership is not position or protocol, it is compassion in action, and at the heart of it all was a single act: rescuing a lost notebook. If this story inspired you, subscribe for more inspiring stories of Ibrahim Traoré and others who redefine leadership through courage and compassion. Share this video so others can see the power of empathy in action. Remember, your hands, your heart, and your choices can change the world, just like Ibrahim's did for Musa.